Hello, audience. Hello, Kate Bush fans. This is Professor Timothy Melbinger, now with fewer clothes, as I'm recording in the middle of a heat wave all over North America in the first week of July 2021. This is the channel where I'm discussing more than just the lyrics of pop songs so that you may better enjoy the song, so that you may better understand what's going on with notes, melodies, harmonies, rhythms, overall groupings, what we call the form of the piece. You see, I've always found that the better you know a piece, really know what's going on at every level, um, it doesn't lose its magic. In fact, it gets more special. And when you're doing something like this, when you're really paying attention, when you're really listening, not just hearing a piece of music, you're transcending the banalities of your day-to-day life, and that's what the artist wanted when he or she wrote the song. And you find out more about not just the music, you find out more about the artist, you find out more about that time in history, and you find out more about yourself and how you react to music. And that's always a good use of your time. So let's get into it. Today's song is called This Woman's Work. It was written by British singer-songwriter Kate Bush in 1988 at the height of her modest popularity. And it was crafted to be part of the climactic scene of director John Hughes' film She's Having a Baby in 1988. She would also include it on her next solo album called The Sensual World in '89. So Kate, of course, sings and uh, plays, or actually lead and background vocals, and she's in there. The background vocals are two parts, two additional parts to the lead. She also plays piano throughout, and from what I can hear, two synthesizer parts. They're not really foreground, but I'll discuss that when they emerge. We also hear harmonic support, and only occasionally, from a string orchestra conducted by Michael Kamen, who often does that very thing. So the song has appeared in a few other films, not really that important of films, but when it does, it always makes an appearance back on the British pop charts. And in the new century, a couple of artists have covered the song in their own way. So the song has endured, and that's why I talk about these songs. So, as in most of Bush's songs, the focus is on her voice and some of the idiosyncratic and downright strange things she can do with it. With the sparse instrumentation here, we have a more intimate experience with the lyrics, and thankfully, we are rewarded with a song with plenty of depth in what she's trying to convey. The subject matter actually is unusually deep for pop music. So the lyrics, they convey the sudden anguish of a man who has just learned that his wife is experiencing problems during childbirth. In fact, some kind of serious problem. In fact, when we're watching the film, they just push him out of the delivery room and they won't tell him anything. He has to sit in isolation in the waiting room. His parents and her parents show up, but he's always apart from them. It's the climactic scene of the film, and some of the song was written directly for the film, right? The images she brings up are from the past, and during that time we get flashbacks, or the images are at the lyrics are discussing part of the current state of mind of the protagonist, the father, as he is clearly has unresolved feelings at the very least. Okay, so the first section is declamatory. She's trying to introduce us to the drama here, as it's not very clear when you just hear the song what the hell's going on. So we hear about who he is, what's going on in the hospital, and then we have a section with more hopeful lyrics as he's trying to be brave, and we hear her talking to him, and but although she's from the next room, he imagines her speaking to him, that she wants him to be brave and that for him to have strength. But then the lyrics degenerate into anguish and even despair, and more than that, absolute desperation. The climactic line of both halves of the song is more of a reversion to something you might hear, a helpless utterance from a childhood. um, Make it go away. Okay, so that's pretty serious. That's what a child might say when confronted with a situation he or she has no chance of controlling whatsoever, to the point where the child just wants the parents to come in and make it go away. Okay, so maybe it's, evil, whether imagined or real, but certainly a bad thing. And and it's for an adult to do this. Okay, um, that means whatever is transpiring in the adult's head has gone to a very dark place indeed. And it's not out of the blue. There was a downward spiral to this point. Okay, so we'll pay attention to the lyrics. They are important here, but I want to show how it's the music that supports that so well. Now, the most strikingly odd aspect of the song is that we hear Bush, a mezzo soprano female singer, giving us a male perspective, singing from or as if she were the father here. And this is really not what we would expect. I mean, it's not completely unheard of. This happens in opera and in classical concert music. Sometimes you will hear songs that were originally written, that were from a woman's voice, sung by a man, because the song is so great that we'll hear it either way. It's okay. But as far as pop music, no, I can't think of a single song from the point of view of the opposite sex, unless it's in something like a rock opera, where we know that voice at that point is a female character, or vice versa at that point. Okay, so that's gonna make it strange right off the bat. Okay, trying to imagine the male's point of view sung by a woman here. Okay, so what's going on in the let me tell you, in the film at this point. The film is called She's Having a Baby, and the first half of the film is the young couple, well, getting married and trying to adjust to life, and it's not so easy. And mostly we get the film from the point of view of the male lead, the protagonist, Kevin Bacon, as he tries to grow up into his role as a husband and then father in the second half of the film, as we follow her pregnancy and that now the complications at the hospital. Um, so the mother is put under general anesthesia. If we hear any of her voice, it's gone by 30 seconds into the song, and we have just him to deal with. Now, the mother put under anesthesia is going to wake up later and be just fine, and will have really not experienced not anything during the same amount of time that he was in anguish. Okay, so while one could debate the choice of a woman singing from the male point of view here, when you hear the song, I think you're going to agree, if you don't already know, that there's no argument. The Bush does an amazing job covering a wide emotional range, and I think that's why Hughes selected her for it. She can do things with her voice. Well, she's willing to do things with her voice that other people just don't. Or at least she was at that time. Her voice has dropped lately. Okay, so the form of the song. It's a variation on verse chorus form with a short introduction, and a short ending, which is really no more than repetition of the last phrase. So there are two voices, or two verses and two choruses here. However, there's ambiguity in when the sections begin and when they end. Okay, now there's an overlapping of harmony, I guess, and text. It's not immediately clear, like a scene change in a film, when the new sections begin. And you know what? We don't really need that. It can be subtle. But it's so subtle that it's ambiguous here, and I think there's a reason for that. More on that in a second. So, along the way, harmonic ambiguity as well. So, it's not clear what key we're in. Okay, now this could be disastrous. This could be at least maddening or disastrous, perhaps, in a typical song, but this is no typical song, right? Our main character here is in anguish. Nothing is resolved, okay, by the end of the song. Maybe it's correct then that the harmony should have no clear dominant tonic relationship, right? Here's dominant tonic, right? And that's the key of the song, A flat major. We don't hear that once in the song, okay? Not at the beginning, middle, or end of each verse or chorus. Um, so I think the formal and harmonic ambiguity at both micro and macro levels actually um, were intentional on the part of Bush in order to write a song that supports a wide emotional range that includes something near panic. So the song does hold together with a sort of fragility and grace I will also describe, and I hope you will hear along the way. And I believe it has endured and achieved something like a sacred status for many who can hear that vulnerability is part of the song. And we don't often hear that in popular music, right? Usually we hear um, singers who are sure of what they're doing and that kind of thing. No, here our protagonist is not clear how to handle his own feelings. Okay, but you see, as Bush's audience has aged over the past 33 years, they surely have come in contact with more end of life situations, or at least difficult, maybe difficult hospital room situations in which something like this will apply. And uh, I think that's why the song is still important. Okay, so let's get into the notes and rhythms and harmonies. For the introduction, we hear a slow cycle of four chords in a steady half note rhythm, okay, as well as a wordless and rhythmically free sounding vocal part, in which, when I say wordless, she's just singing ah and ooh, maybe ah. It's not clear exactly what vowel she's singing here, and that's okay. The studio effects, furthermore, on the voice make it sound like it might be coming from a different room. And you know, that's exactly what would be happening at this point in the film because, as I mentioned before, he's been banished from the delivery room and gone to sit in the waiting room, and perhaps these first statements from the voice are her wailing in pain from the next room, or perhaps it's just, you know, his wailing, his mental anguish. Hard to say. Let's have a listen, because I'm not about to try to sing up where Bush does up here. Here we go. Measure one. Oh, it's soft here. Here's what it looks like. Or to the left. Second statement goes down. Third statement, like the first, goes up at the end. And then we have the verse. Okay, so there's a lot going on here I'd like to discuss. First of all, the harmonies in this introduction do not end up supporting the verse that follows immediately after. This is what we usually hear. Any pop or rock song, the so-called introduction is not really that much of an introduction as it is the beginning of the harmony that we're about to hear the voice begin to sing on top of, right? So at this point, or should I say, when the verse starts right after this, she moves into other harmonies and other rhythms. However, these four chords from the beginning, here they are again. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Okay, those 4 chords will appear at some point in the verse about to follow, and then they will also appear in the chorus after that. So we should pay attention to this pattern. It's here as the first thing in the song for a reason. We should look at it carefully. Okay, so to begin with, there's something a little odd about these harmonies. Okay, here's the first harmony. Hear it? Okay, sounds fine. I mean, nothing. I have nothing against that harmony. But what I'd like to point out with is that it's not what we usually hear. This is a D flat harmony. There are the 3 notes in a D flat. Major harmony. Okay. Here's D flat, F, and A flat. They sound great together. Great. However, our low note here is not D flat, it's F. Okay, so my little chart here is showing you what that looks like. D flat with D flat as the lowest note, and D flat with the D flat moved to the top, exposing F as the lowest note, and that's what she plays. Okay, so look, when you get this, and you don't get this very often at all in pop and rock, this is not the norm. This is less than 5% of the time you're going to get this. It's called first inversion, okay? Now, when you have the D flat harmony or C or A or whatever the name of the harmony is, when that note is also the lowest note, it's called a root position. This is the norm, okay? When we have what was the middle of that first chord as the low note, the music sounds a little unstable. Now, there's a very good reason for that. The intervals, the distances between the notes change when that's our low note compared to that. Okay, it's slightly less stable in first inversion. Oh, there's something called second inversion. We don't have that in this song, but it would be the same for that. There's something less stable about first inversion because the chord resonates a little differently. Okay, again, not badly, but it's not as stable as it could be. And we get 3 major chords in a row in first inversion. Here's D flat with F as the low note. Here's E flat major with G as the low note. Here's A flat major with C as the low note, and then B flat minor with B flat as the low note. Okay, so only the last one of those is in root position. The first 3 are a little less stable than they could be. Plus, the range. This is almost all above middle C. This first chord perched away up here. The second chord even higher, the third chord lower. And then finally we get below middle C by just a step. Okay, music in that range is not supported by, nice lush bass notes. Okay? It could have been that would be root position triads and full harmonic support from a low register. We don't get that here. It's coming later. But for now, the chords sound, well, a word I've already used, fragile. Okay, almost like they're made of glass and could be easily broken up there. Okay? It's an argument I made once before with a Tori Amos song called Winter, in which she begins the song way up there, and I think it's for the same reason. It's supposed to be fragile, almost magical sounding. In that case and this case. Okay, so that's the harmonic cycle of the introduction. Now, something is holding this together. I mentioned that these harmonies don't form a standard progression, and they certainly don't form a conclusive progression, because there's nothing about the B flat minor harmony, the 4th chord, that makes it sound like this is where we end. But there are 2 ideas that make this little section make a little more sense, that give it some organization. The first is, look, the first 2 chords go up, right? And the second 2 chords go down. So the up versus down shape there is complementary. Okay, look, I know that's not much, but it's something that helps us group the ascent and the descent as something that belongs together. In addition to that, there's a most important note, at least in my ear, and it's E flat. Okay, now our scale here is A flat major. Wait. There's A flat. Okay? It's not A flat. And it shouldn't be. And I've mentioned before, we're not going to hear the A flat major harmony as conclusive, settling the score once and for all, ever in this piece. The most important note is E flat. Okay? Why? Well, look, it's our high note. It's this high note here. It's the high note in the voice when she first comes in with the ah-ho. It's the high note again when she comes in again. It's in there in the harmony, but not in the best place, but melodically and some of the high notes in the piano part. It's there. I mention this because when I first heard it, I thought, okay, that's probably the most important note here. And okay, I was right. Moving throughout, I'm going to call attention to E flat, not every single time, but times when she emphasizes it, because in the end, it ends up being a good marker of the song for beginnings, especially beginnings. Okay, so that helps the organization in a song that sounds somewhat improvisatory otherwise. Okay, so after our beginning here, actually, let's look at one last time with our introduction. First of all, there are 6 measures. Okay, usually for an introduction we hear a grouping of 4 or 8. Okay, those are multiples of each other, right? Here's 2 groups or 2 measures 3 times. And it's not just the same thing 3 times. The first one ends up going up. The second one goes down. The third one, like the first, also goes up. Okay, one would expect a 4th statement also tumbling down like her melody here. It doesn't. And that's okay. The song, she tells us right away, look, listen for the patterning in this song. It's not going to be standard. Pay attention. And when you do, as I'm going to point out to you, you get rewarded. Okay, furthermore, she begins the verse then with, as I mentioned before, no big clear new harmony like a scene change in a film. The harmony all of a sudden stops on A flat first inversion, and then she plays it again and again. Okay, in the beginning of the verse, she's stuck in what we called chord alternation. You can't even call it chord progression. There are 2 chords, one then the other, and it's hard to tell actually which one is more important. She's stuck here. That's okay. It's declamatory. She's trying to get out. She's trying to expose us to what's going on in our drama, and the words are, well, pray God you can cope. I'll stand outside. This woman's world is hard on the man. So, yes, she broke the harmonic pattern of the introduction, and that's noticeable. But our verse has yet really to get off the ground. She's just kind of stuck there. However, it's not stuck there in a predictable way. Look at measure 2 of our verse. We have music in 4/4 for the entire introduction. The 4 beats were clear, and now right here, before the words "pray God," and then a measure of 3/4. So what she does is drop one of the beats during the A flat harmony. We're used to 2 beats plus 2 beats, but then she gives us 1 plus 2 beats, and then back to 2. It's going to go back to 4/4 right after this, in this next bar here. Okay, so it's not really a grouping of 7. It's a grouping of 4 plus 3 plus 4 that is is yet to get moving. It's hard to call it music in 7/4. Okay, so what does this do? Okay, this makes it sound improvisatory. Okay, she's getting out the words, but they they seem to flow with not not a hesitancy, but almost an urgency because look, one of the beats is missing. Let's have her do it and see if you can hear it, because would you believe she's actually better at singing it and playing it than I am. Okay, so going back, beginning of the verse. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so she's back to 4 after that. Okay, so after the odd measure of 3/4, she begins the second section of this odd verse with new harmonies, and guess what? It begins to resemble the introduction. Here's the first harmony, although lower, followed by yeah. They're followed by unexpectedly new harmonies that we haven't heard yet. Okay. That's not the hair-raising part. The hair-raising part is she sings "This woman's work, this woman's world," both those high notes, okay? And that look, she doesn't step us up to them. She leaps up. This woman's work, this woman's world. It's very clear that those notes are high and exposed, coming from the lower range here, okay? So they're emphasized. However, they don't belong in the harmony at that point. Under the word work, we have this harmony. But, okay, it's a D flat major harmony, but here's a C. So she's singing or playing this harmony and work. The C doesn't really belong, and then the C doesn't really belong in E flat. There's the C as well. Okay, and some extra notes I played accidentally due to the strange angle at which I'm putting my fingers at the keyboard. Sorry about that. Okay, so look, this would be fine. This would be exquisite, perhaps, if that dissonance and the dissonance resolved in the standard fashion down. Okay, usually when we hear a dissonant note, it goes down. Like that, okay? Well, this goes down, but further than that. It's not a standard resolution. She does move down a little bit, and the harmony starts moving down. So, ooh, is hard on the man. There. Faster harmonic motion as well. To this point, we've heard almost exclusively half notes in 4/4. Yes, there was one 3/4 measure, which moved by a little quicker. There was a single quarter note harmony there, but now we get 3 in a row. So F minor, E flat major, and B flat minor. There it is. So everything descending there seems to make up for the gesture that kept moving up with this woman's work and this woman's world. Seems to make up for it that it descends there, okay? But it moves to this B flat harmony here. Now, we've heard the B flat harmony before. It was there 3 times in the introduction. Each time it sounded ambiguous as the only minor chord and in somewhat of a strange position as possibly sounding like an ending but not really accomplishing that. Here it just sounds dark. We have again, we get that. Okay, so why? Well, look, this woman's work is hard on the man. The focus is from the woman to the man here. Now, we've seen hospital dramas, we've seen films in which there is a delivery room scene, right? What happens every time? Oh, the yelling, the The man sort of doesn't have any role while the woman is losing her mind there, and finally the baby comes out and everyone smiles and that kind of thing, right? Okay, yeah, I've been there. It doesn't really happen that way. It's sort of, I suppose. We don't ever see it this way from the man's point of view, from outside. And it doesn't have to be childbirth, but that makes it more clear that, look, the big distinction here between the woman doing what, well, she does best, deliver children, although there's a problem here, but and the man, well, having done his part, okay, and trying to find a new role for himself, whether he's going to be, hey, he might even be a single father. That's what's going on here. Okay, so it's anxiety ridden. Okay, so let's move on. The verse ends with a third section with another 3/4 bar. Okay, so we have harmonic alternation again. So it's similar. It's the same actually as the harmonic alternation in the beginning of the verse. We have, let's see. Now his part is over, and now starts the craft. Those are the harmonies. It's nearly the same thing as a few measures ago, but the counting is 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and it stays in 4. 2, 3, 4, like that. Sorry, major. There we go. Okay, so again, just when we were beginning to say, oh, okay, it's back to 3/4. Sorry, it's back to 4/4. That measure of 3/4 sounded just improvisatory, or perhaps a little urgency. That's gone now. No, we're not allowed to fall into the groove of 4/4 without her giving us another measure of 3/4 here. Okay, similar results to what happened in the beginning of the verse, because she sings 2 consecutive high C's again. So now starts the craft of the father with 2 C's up there. And guess what? Just like before, okay, so dividing the verse in half is the C with the D flat chord where the C doesn't really fit in, and a C with an E flat chord where the C doesn't fit into that either. Unresolved dissonance here. Now, I agree, it's not the kind of unresolved dissonance where you cover your ears and leave the room saying, whoa, wow, what, that was ugly. Okay, look, everything's quiet here, and we don't have drums, and she's not pounding out the dissonance here. It's subtle, but that's okay. It's still dissonance. You still hear it no matter if whether or not you can articulate, hey, that doesn't sound right. No, you still know that's at the very least, you know that's unstable right there. This is no ending, right? This chord or that chord, especially the way they just rise up and fade away, that's not a good ending. Furthermore, harmonically, this is how the piece began. Those are the first 2 chords. We expect them to keep moving, right? That was a beginning before, and now it's the end of the verse. So I hope you can see what I mean by harmonic ambiguity. Here we have a beginning recast as the end, and in neither case did it sound good as a beginning or an end. Should I say it didn't sound like a rock solid beginning or a restful ending. And along the way we had changing time signatures and harmonies that seemed to be well, again, more improvisatory, as if she's making this up on the spot. As the man starts analyzing what's going on here, what the plight really is. Okay, so moving on, the chorus. I'm going to discuss the chorus in 3 parts. Chorus 1A, B, and C, because, well, you'll see. Okay, so we do get the return of the harmonic cycle from the introduction, right? So what are those chords? Well, you remember those? Okay, but she has a new vocal line here. I know you have a little life in you yet. I know you have a little strength left. With new low notes. She has gotten below middle C, where she started the verse, down to the B, low B flat. And the next part, I know you have a little life yet. It gets even lower there. But that A flat is not strong as the tonic of the piece. In fact, it's dissonant. Little strength, little life yet. It doesn't really belong in the chord in which we hear it there. Okay, so the range is expanding here, lower, and it's still not harmonically settled. Okay, in fact, let's hear that transition. I mentioned before how the beginning of our verse is not exactly clear. The way the verse ends is not exactly clear, and although I think the beginning of the chorus is a little more clear because she changes characters. We hear what sounds like background vocals instead of her lead vocal. There's an effect on her voice as if, like in the beginning, it's coming from a further distance away. So maybe it's not her. Maybe it's his. Maybe it's her talking to him. I know you have life in you yet. Or maybe it's him talking to her, conveying it telepathically, sort of across, through the walls. I know you have a little life yet. So let's get through this. Here's verse. Okay, here's the end of the verse. With these two dissonant chords. Chorus.
I know you have a little life in you yet. I know you have a lot of strength left. I know you have a little
It's repeated.
life in you yet. I know you have a lot of strength.
Okay, so hey, when I said the word chorus, again, there wasn't a big change of instrumentation or key or much. She's singing lower than she had before, yes, but one of the harmonies was not really new. It's something we've heard a few times already. Again, ambiguity. What is especially ear-catching to me in this section is the vocal segments are one measure long. Okay, I know you have a little life in you yet. One measure. I know you have a little life left. I forget what's afterwards. Something like, no, you have a little strength in you yet. I know you have a little life yet. Something like that. Okay, one measure segments in the vocal part. But in the harmony, the harmonic cycle is as long as it was in the introduction. Remember, that was half note, half note, half note, half note, which equals, well, 4.5 notes is 2 measures of 4/4, a 2-measure segment. So the patterning cuts across the voice and the accompaniment here. We hear the voice telling us with something with more urgency every 4 beats, every 1 measure, and the voice is still trying to keep it together with what we were told back in measure 1. Okay, so that matters. There's more of an urgency here. We hear more words coming out, for one, and the words are hopeful. So you don't know what's going to come yet. I've already told you what's coming next, but I mean, if you're just hearing the song for the first time, you don't know what's coming yet, and perhaps you expect that the positive message here, hey, I know you got a little life in you yet. Yeah, here you go, babe. No, it's going to fall apart right after this. Okay, so chorus 1B, in which she starts singing the same music, but an octave higher. Okay, so that's not a big difference. I know, it's louder, it's higher. You hear it, and plus it doesn't sound like background vocals anymore. It sounds like clearly the lead vocal in the mix. Okay, she's back to her old high note, E flat. I should be crying, but I just can't let it show. Again, 1 measure segments in the voice, but this time there are even more words. She doesn't begin it where she did before. It starts on the 2nd 16th note. So we get the lower harmony. So it's, I should be crying, but I just can't let it show. I should be hoping, but I can't stop thinking. First of all, it's hard to do that. It's hard to sing without any time to get a breath between segments or phrases. But she had remarkable breath control here. Good. The E flats don't belong with the D flat harmony, as maybe you've come to expect by now. This is the D flat harmony she's playing, but I should be. Here's the D flat harmony, and here's I should be crying, but I doesn't quite fit. the harmony. Okay, well, we've come to expect that as well. So it's the same harmonic progression we heard in the previous four measures, going back to introduction. Good, we have that to hold on to. But what the other new thing here is a synthesizer part, actually, two synthesizer parts. One is just voices singing something like ah, or here, and then doing something like that. Okay, so there's a little more, the chord is a little thicker, but that's really in the background. There's another part coming in that's, okay, this descending line in the piano part. Oh, it's decorated. Like that, but it's descending from what, D flat, C, B flat, A, G, F over the course of two measures. It's called a counter melody. Now it's just about in where she's singing her. It's a little lower, but just about in where she's singing her, the primary melody. But the two melodies right there interact, okay, and not always perfectly, which is to say that they are dissonant with each other by just a little bit, and that's okay, because that's what's going on here. This is anguish. Our singer, our main character, the father, the protagonist, is saying, I should be crying, but I just can't let it show. So the first words he says are doubting what he should be doing in the first place. Okay, look, I've been on the earth several years now, and maybe like you, I know that it's not the easiest feeling when you're not sure of what the hell you should be doing in a difficult situation. Sometimes you know, sometimes you have the wherewithal to do that. That's not what our protagonist has here, okay? And he says, I should be hoping, but I can't stop thinking. So again, doubting his own reaction. Then he gets on, what he tells us what he's thinking, okay? Of all the things I should have given but I didn't, of all the things I should have said but I didn't. Okay, that's regret. So we had some hope not long ago, the beginning of the chorus. Remember when the lower voice was more soothing? I should be, what she's, I forget exactly what she said, but it was hope. You have a little strength left, right? Now it's difficulty thinking about how to just go about his day, and how to even organize his thoughts, doubting them and thinking about things he could be doing and things perhaps he should have done differently in the past. Okay, so yeah, great, regret. That's not going well, but it's not going as well as it's about to happen in a few seconds. In what I'm calling now chorus 1C, right? A third part, the ending to this part. She finally breaks the pattern of those harmonies. Remember those harmonies? This, and that. Change to this, followed by that. Okay, so it's actually the same thing twice. Instead of first inversion, E flat, after D flat, we get finally our first root position, E flat of the song. Okay, now, in the key of A flat, that's called the dominant, and it could go to A flat major, our tonic, the note from which the scale begins, okay? It doesn't. Why should it? Nothing's resolved here. In fact, it gets worse for the protagonist. After she breaks the pattern, it's a signal that, okay, something's going to change here. What does change? This gut-wrenching harmony. It's B flat with an added C, including that in there, followed by D flat and E flat, and back to B flat minor. And with that move, she sings, make it go away. So I've talked about this before. This is regression to early childhood. Make it go away. Make the bad thing go away, or the pain. Okay, usually maybe physical pain in the case of a child, or maybe psychological. Maybe they saw something they couldn't deal with for the first time. I don't know. But this is something he can't deal with for the first time, and I'm not really sure who he's talking about to make it go away. Maybe he's calling out to her to make it go away. Maybe he's calling out to God. Hard to tell. Okay, so a little bit more about this ending. In fact, wait, before I discuss it a little bit more, let's hear her do it, because would you believe, again, she's much better at or than I am at doing it. Here we go. Chorus 1B. Higher. Okay, one measure units again. Still. The harmony changes slightly. Here's B flat minor. And the orchestra. Okay. And it ends finally with the two measure grouping. Make it go away. She repeats herself because, well, this is an ending, but it's an ending because that's so important. She wants us to hear it. And the music changes because this is an ending. As you might have guessed, we have a change in the rhythm as well. Okay, so at this point, not only do we sound like there's an ending that's sort of thwarted, that doesn't really get to where it could go and ends up on this dark B flat minor chord again, but at that very moment, there's a measure of 5/4. Okay, what does that mean? Well, in music that has been stuck in 4/4 for several measures, you can't help but notice and expect, at least at some level, even if you can't say, 1, 2, 3, 4, even if you can't articulate that, when you hear it change to 3 or extend to 5, you know, wait a minute, something's not quite lining up right there. Okay, so 5 here is an extension. Earlier, I mentioned the measure of 3, in fact, it happened twice, as dropping a beat and getting through a bar rather than in 4 beats in 3 beats. So it was a little sooner than it could have been, and then urgent. At this point, she's trying to prolong the agony, and that makes for a slightly longer measure. Before going back to 4/4, before getting back into the meter, the grouping of beats that we've expected since measure 1. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then she's back to verse 2. So it's that odd measure of 5, especially in that measure. Well, if you can see my chart here, 3 harmonies in root position for the first time. And D flat and E flat. It could have gone to A flat. Well, it would have gone to A flat maybe if the woman had made it go away, or there a miracle occurred and God steps in and makes it go away, but it doesn't. It's back to the B flat harmony because nothing is resolved. Okay, so I mentioned the orchestra was playing only for a few notes there. It'll play more in the second time through. There are some changes in the second half, starting with verse 2. Usually, verse 2 is the same music as verse 1 with new words. Okay, while we do get new words here, we get new music as well. Now, it's not entirely new. It's the music from the introduction with those same high chords. Yeah? It's those chords. So it's not entirely new, but it's not the chords we heard in verse 1 with Pray God You Can Go, I'll Stand Outside. What's going on here is she's adding words to what was the free-sounding vocal things from the introduction. The word vocalese means singing just on a syllable, or ooh, or even e, I suppose. And that's what she was doing in the beginning. Ha ha, something like that. Now it's give me these moments back. Sorry about the singing. I'm a piano player. She's added words to what we heard before. So it's new, but it's not, right? We've been prepped for this earlier, okay? And it's different than the first verse. It's a little unexpected. If you were expected if you had a firm control on on the organization of verse 1, which I think you don't, because you don't get it after so you listen to it very carefully or have me explain it to you. It's supposed to be a little disorganized. Well, now this is more organized. Everything's in 4/4, right? But it's not the same as the verse from before. So that's significant, okay? She launches into chorus 2, but it's a little different. So let's get through that transition. Okay, so look, here's the end of chorus 1 with Make It Go Away again. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Back to 4/4. Good. So it's the same shape as before. Okay. 4 times before the 4th time can end. Okay, before it's a nice 2-measure grouping like the first 3 times. Suddenly we get I know you got a little life in you yet, which was the beginning of the chorus. The soft beginning of the chorus, but there's an overlap there. Her voice is still going from the verse when she starts the music that was clearly the beginning of the chorus before, okay? So again, check it out. 1, 2, there's the second voice, right? Okay, now these are the background vocals. There's an effect on them with some kind of reverb and delay. It sounds like it's coming from the other room again. Okay, so that's the same as before. Okay, good. So maybe the song is settling down. It's very soft, like before. Good. Here we go. The beginning of chorus 2B is like the beginning of chorus 1B with the higher line. I should be crying, but I just can't let it show. Now, do you remember what happened before? As soon as she sang, show, I should be thinking, but I can't stop thinking. Something like that. 1-measure groupings with really no breath in between. She kept bouncing up to that high E flat and giving us more lines almost in a frantic way. Well, what happens this time along? Let me go back just a little bit and, okay. 2, 3, 4, space. That's new. 1, 2, 3, 4, space, and background vocals come in. Okay, now at this point, a little late in the game, she's going to start singing all of the 1-measure groupings again, in which she says over and over again. In fact, there are more iterations than last time from the high E flat. Oh, what are the words? The words are, well, I think they're the same as before. There's something like, I should be hoping, but I can't stop thinking. I should be, of all the things we should have said that we never said, of all the things we should have done, but we never did. Okay, we get regret again. Of all the things that you needed from me. So this was new. She didn't say that the last time. All the things you needed from me. Not just things we could have done, things I could have done. All the things that you wanted from me. All the things I should have given but didn't. Okay? It's not a neutral judgment here. He's saying, no, wait a second. If this is the end, I didn't do my job well enough. It's not a good place to be, okay? If you were in this situation, you'd want to say, we had the best life we could together. I gave everything I could. If you've seen the movie, you know Kevin Bacon doesn't give all he can do. He's really growing in the beginning of the movie. In fact, he almost has an affair and walks away from it at a pivotal point in the film. Okay, so regret. The orchestra comes in a little earlier here. Again, they're just providing harmonic support with big harmonies, big lush supportive harmonies, and something like. Okay, good. So there's more orchestra than before. And rather than launching into the "Oh darling, make it go" in the same way she did last time, this time she adds an extra measure. Okay, not an extra beat, like I mentioned from the end of chorus one, but a whole extra measure, but not on "make it go," on the word "didn't." Of all the things I should have given, but I didn't, and she holds it out. Okay, so we expect the part about "Oh darling, make it go" to have happened at this point. Instead, she's still holding out the previous harmony. Okay, it's supposed to be gut wrenching at this point. And well, that's what I feel. Tell me what you think. Here we go. Chorus 1B. Starting in parts. Now it takes off. Every measure. 2, 3, 4, 5. Extra measure. Here. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, sorry. I meant to stop it there. Because it's an anguished upbeat. We know there was something that should have happened there if we were paying attention earlier. That didn't happen. She makes us wait 4 extra beats for it. Okay, it's the "Oh darling, make it go." Because look, the rumination, the spiral down is worse this time. So what does happen? Well, and that's it. The end of the song, still, no harmonic conclusion. Okay, imagine, make it go away. Just make it go away now. Horrible. Okay, maybe not horrible. Maybe it tells you, wait, oh, this was good. No, doesn't happen that way. Doesn't happen in the film that way either. He gets called into her room, and then we see that she's okay. Sorry to ruin it for you, but it's a gut-wrenching ending. It lands up in the air. Wait, just make it go away now, and that's it. Okay, it ends on a harmony we call the dominant, and in first inversion, it's almost the last place you might expect to end. Nothing gets resolved here. If he's learned something, it's not clear at this point in the song, and the song's over. Okay, the film ends with growth after that, but there's not much more of the film. Actually, there's only a few minutes, but you see some growth. Okay, so what happens in the last few measures? Well, as you might have imagined, there's more to it than I was talking about. First of all, on the words "Oh, darling, make it go," the first "Oh" is a B flat minor harmony, same as before. Okay, but there's an added C natural in there. So that's in the middle of it, and we get this 3 times on the way to that, because she wants to really make sure you hear the dissonance during "Oh," and that's what she's singing. She's singing C as well above. So above B flat, there's a C here, and up here, along with D flats, there. Okay, it's supposed to be an anguished moment. "Darlin', make it go." When she said it before, "Oh darling, make it go away," she changed the harmony on "away." Here, "Oh darling, make it go away," she doesn't change the harmony. She remains on the D flat major chord. It doesn't get to E flat. She remains on the D flat major chord. Her voice goes up, "Make it go away." Oh, and the harmony descends to, well, something else after that. It never gets well. It gets back to a version of E flat, but not a good one. Okay, so it's crushing at the end here. The the hopes are crushed. They're not resolved. Okay, now one more thing that you probably heard, but I glossed over before, because there's something else about the chorus two, B and C here. Well, mostly B, that I want to call your attention to. She adds background vocals. Okay, now not the first time we've had that, but up there. Okay, so the first time we hear it was I should be hoping, but I can't stop thinking. Oh, there. It's an upbeat to the beginning of all the things I should have said, but we never said. Great. But she keeps going. She puts it at a different spot in the patterning, so it's all the things I should have done, but I never did. Great. And again, and again, and again. But the last time, when she gets to all the things I should have given, but I didn't, she adds on top of her E flat another note, F. This F right above this D flat at the same time. Here, let me change my setting. Well, no, not going to do it. Anyway, those two notes together, that high up, are particularly dissonant. They sound a little like a scream. Okay? And it's unresolved. It doesn't go anywhere logically in the next harmony. Okay. Whether it's the woman calling out, again, from in pain, although probably not because we've seen her get general anesthesia, or whether it's just the voices in the father's head screaming out in pain along with his words at this time, it's not clear. But whatever it is, it's gut-wrenching. Here it is again. Here we go. Here we go. She has the background vocals last a little longer than her final B flat with did it, and you get to listen to those two notes right there. Okay, she wasn't afraid of harmonic clusters like this. In fact, she does other things in other songs that are even more dissonant. And at this point, there's a reason for it. Of course, she's trying to prolong the dissonance as far as possible before we get to the ending, which really doesn't resolve things. Okay, so that's what I mean by the song being both fragile and powerful at the same time. It covers a lot of emotional ground with not a lot of harmonic ground, but the way she moves the limited amount of parts together is really something. Okay, so on its own, the song is strange. I know. Frail, maybe. I said fragile, maybe frail is a better term. And there's a lot of contrast within a small amount of materials. That's good. Okay, now she could have gone anywhere at any time, right? The song does hang together with a certain amount of materials, but we get a lot of contrast, a lot of ambiguity, because again, the beginnings and ends are not clear in the man's mind. And furthermore, when you see it in the film, which I recommend, and I think you can watch just that scene on YouTube, but if you just watch that scene, you're not going to really get it. Once you've spent 2 hours with these characters, and you think she might be dying by the end, you feel much differently about it. In fact, that's the same way for any movie climax. Oh, you can watch the ending on YouTube. It's not going to be the same unless you've gone through the whole thing to get to that point. However, at this point, the lyrics speak of turmoil and isolation and flashbacks, and that's what you get in the film. He's stuck in the waiting room with some relatives there, but he's off by himself. He's crying. He's thinking in flashbacks of happier times. which is actually runs counter to the action, or sorry, because we know what's going on in his head. And it's devastating when you get these elements together in the drama. Okay, when I first saw the film in 1988, you know what? The ending of this song in particular, at this moment, would have made even more of an effect on me if I could have been watching the screen, but I couldn't because there were my eyes were full of tears. Okay, just thinking about it right now, I know I just heard the song but and played parts of it, but just thinking about it right now, the ending is making the little hairs stand up on the back of my neck and on my arm. Can you see them? Wait, can you see them standing up a little bit? Yeah. Okay, that's because the song gets me at a deep level that I think I've addressed a little bit in this video, but maybe not even entirely. Um, the woman knew what she was doing here, and I'm okay with the harmonic and formal ambiguity because it made a song that is a perfect portrait of anguish in that character at that time and place. So let me end with her ending again and leave it in the air because it's so effective. Here we go. The end of chorus 2 again.
Make it go away. Just make it go away now.
Thank you for your time and attention.